everybody. Welcome to the Christmas edition of Wisdom Entrepreneurs. Yay! Yay! Woo, woo! Shenan, where's your hat?
I know, I'm sorry. I don't have a hat.
Tinsel?
I don't have it.
Lights?
How about scotch? Does scotch count?
It's got... Scotch count. Oh, Joe. Oh, hi, Chris, with your hat. That's a cute hat. That's like an Ann Summers hat. Sorry. Not that I'd know.
Seeing a window into your life there, MamaJ.
Yeah. Joe, that's a cute little tree.
I haven't got a hat, but I've got a Christmas tree.
Yeah, that's cute. You can't really hold that up the whole time, though.
I hold it the whole time, but
Put it just there on that. There's books behind you. Your right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm packing. Is that visible there?
Yeah, that's but yeah, just about. No, yeah.
Left a bit.
right a bit. Her right. That's it. That's nice. That's nice. Very good. Very festive.
Oh, someone's echoing. Gary, I love that.
So, right, yes, Wisdom Entrepreneurs.
Alfi, look at Alfi. Look at you all.
Look at us all, yeah. We've all come dressed for the event. Hey, Zander. Nice to see you.
Aye, I feel a little underdressed.
Have you got a little Santa outfit you can slip into?
Sorry?
Santa's mountains behind you. Look at that. He's in the environment.
Yeah, that's good enough, isn't it?
yeah, we'll go with that.
I have no hat. I have a minimum amount of Christmas decorations, because after my wife passed away, a lot of things went. I kept the bare minimum.
Yeah,
and I kept a lot less than I realised. So I don't have much.
That makes sense.
In the way of Christmas decorations. So.
That's all right. You're part of our Christmas decorations. Ooh. Wow.
Jeez.
Good grief.
That's a serious amount of chocolate, that is.
Where did you get that from?
I got it from Costco.
Wow.
Yeah, man, everything. Look. Bloody everything.
That's mad.
Oh, trust me.
That's a yeah.
I'm gonna come back to work chubby.
That's yeah. So as you can tell with this seasonal edition of Wisdom Entrepreneurs, it's a little bit more relaxed than usual. However, that doesn't mean that we don't want to take a moment to just connect with each other and maybe reflect on the year, maybe reflect on, celebrate connections, celebrate at this time of year when actually sometimes the real meaning of Christmas for me is about family, and you're all part of my family, and about joy, and about taking time out and just getting back to being ourselves when we spend a lot of the time, and I do anyway, a lot of the time rushing around and being part of everything. And maybe it's a little quiet time this evening where we can be part of ourselves and celebrate the year, good and bad, sad and happy, you know, all the feelings in all their glory, and that they bring us all together today. So I'm really grateful for you all coming tonight. It's the time of year when it's so busy with all the different things going on. I'm really glad that we can make this little bit of time together. And so, yeah, it's a little bit free flowing. We didn't come with a theme. We could talk about reflection. We could play games. We could do both. It was funny because earlier on we were talking about when you look back on the year. I've talked to a couple of people a day. When you look back on your year, you think about the big things, but you forget the little things, the little points of contact that have really made a significant difference. And they might be moments that can just pass by, you know, in the busyness of everything. So it might be nice to mention those. Or we can do whatever you want to do. Beyond Recovery has had a wonderful recovery year, I would say, this year. You know, there's been ups and downs and there's been challenges for sure. But as you all know, with the successful crowdfunding campaign, and thank you everybody here has contributed in different ways and been a supporter of that. Behind the scenes often goes on the struggle, like the trying to get funding and managing, not working remotely, and managing families and babies, and you know, all of the stuff of the struggle. But my biggest takeaway from this year has been the team meetings, which often are half an hour of laughter and no work. You know, no, like we're going to do this and going to do that. They're sometimes we're connecting, and I'm actually going to rename them in the diary now, Team Connection, Team Connects, because they're just points of in the day where we just connect with each other and we just bond, and then the work gets done. You know, the sort of the stuff happens. And I was reflecting on how I often think that I'm in charge of my life. And then I realize I'm actually just doing my bit, that life is in charge of me. Life is happening, life is moving, life is being created. And I'm the one who turns up, shows up or not. But the sort of the life is burgeoning around me, and then I show up and I think, oh, that was a coincidence that happened. But I realize actually that's because that was just being created, and I'm part of that creation. And that's really come home to me this year as well. Someone said to me earlier about how do you create community? And it's a misnomer, isn't it? Like to think that we create community. Community happens when you connect with people. Community creates itself.
Does that mean that there's kind of no such thing as community? That community is just a feeling. We create that whether we have that or not.
Nice, yeah.
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 I didn't think about it before, but
I love that. I love that. Because if you think of this sort of hodgepodge of people here, right? Different people, different walks of life, different countries, different everything. we're a community, but we're not a community that somebody can put on a bid or say, oh, we're going to target these people, because what would they have? They'd have all sorts of weird and wonderful things. Yeah, community is created through feeling. I love that.
Do you know what I was going to say as well, MamaJ? Because I've taken a lot from this year. There's so many different things to say, which is the main thing. But one of the recent things that happened to me when we done the crowdfunder, and I'd just like to second what MamaJ said to everyone that supported us or in any kind of way, we just like to say a big thank you to you guys and what you guys are allowing to make happen and keep us doing. Yeah, we're just grateful for that. But what I saw from that, MamaJ, I think I spoke about it in one of our serious meetings, MamaJ. We're telling everybody we're having fun in this meeting. We get some serious work done, man. It's all serious, guys, yeah? All right. So one of these meetings, I just before that, I looked at the wall and I saw the range of people that had donated and people comments, and I was just overwhelmed with a feeling. Now that you're talking, it was like a little community. Like a little feeling of community that we had built up, or built up over time, because there was people in there that had alluded to things where you might have touched them years ago, or they might have done something with Beyond Recovery years ago, and they're saying, yeah, we still know that you're out there, and they're still sort of with us and backing us. So that's like a community that we didn't even know is still out there supporting us and with us. And just for me to feel a part of that, not looking in on the outside saying, oh, they're doing good work. No, I'm actually a part of that good work, what people are praising and saying. And to feel a part of that, the community feeling, I got a bit overwhelmed. And because it was just looking at people's comments and numbers, and the numbers didn't even matter, with the comments that was hitting me the hardest. And yeah, I've really got a sense of community from some people I might not even have met before, some people I might have had certain thinking about beforehand. But when you read their comments and see the support and where it comes from, it did kind of blow me back. But just to know we're building that, or we're continuing to do that, is just amazing. It's an amazing feeling. But like I said, I've seen so many things this year. But when you just talk about the community, to feel a part of a community like this is just amazing for me. It's just beautiful. And it is what you said, Omar. It's never a place or a word, or it's only the feeling. And as you said that, that put a word to the feeling I got when I read the donor wall. But that's all I felt. That's all oneness with our community, and it was beautiful. It was.
I was just looking down there at Mark, and because it's like the runners community, right? Like the only thing that brings those people together is the fact that they're runners, or we're runners, but the people are all different from all walks of life, and with all different ages and sizes, and
yeah, that's it, isn't it? And I find that lovely about running and about what we're doing here, because so much of our thinking, it may just be me, but a lot of our thinking in life, what was sold, is that, we're in competition with each other and we're not quite making it, and la 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 la, and that's all nonsense. Because you go to come here, or you go to running, and people are people, and if you're doing something together, then that is it. That's the answer. That's just all that you need, isn't it? You all got the same thing. You're all doing something together, and everything else is completely irrelevant. I don't know anything about anyone we go running with. I know they're lovely people, and I love to see them. I don't care if they live in a hole or in a mansion. It's so irrelevant, isn't it? It's just, I love them because they're just there. They turn up, and there's a shared feeling. And the same with you fellas. It's just great, isn't it? It gets to the real essence of what we are doing. That shared thing. It cuts all the nonsense away, doesn't it?
yeah. Nice.
I think what that points to for me, what Mark just said about what you just said, MamaJ, is I saw that that's just, the principle is just an explanation for what's happening when we come together as a community. Because if it's a running community or whatever it is, all that happens is when people come together for a purpose, they drop out their thinking. When they drop out their thinking, they connect and love each other, because that's what we are.
Yeah.
So that's what community and connection is. It's when we get out of our own way, when we drop our thinking, when we drop our judgment. And I think that's what tends to happen in any community, whether it be running or a different interest or whatever it is. When people come together, what they don't see is happening is their common purpose allows them to drop out their thinking. And whenever they do that, they drop their judgment. They don't care about anything else. And obviously, as soon as you do that, you're just in a place of love and a place of connection. And it's fascinating to understand what's going on and why that's created, basically.
Yeah, because you know what just occurred to me, because I've heard a couple of times on over the last week or so, well, in fact, over the last year, I never saw people who looked like me, so I didn't go in that thing because there weren't people who looked like me. And I've heard it quite a few times, obviously with a lot of reference to Black Lives Matter, and highlighting the sort of racist issues and so on. But what just occurred to me when Gary was talking is that that's true. We forget that when there's a common purpose. So when you're a writer or a runner or a wisdom entrepreneur or a whatever, that overrides anything else, any other thinking about all of that. It just completely, because you drop out of your own head about what's some. So if like, let's take the writing community, when you know that somebody else is a writer, that's it, they're accepted, regardless to anything else. That's really interesting. So the focus needs to be more around that, seeing how that works, rather than focusing on making the differences less different, if that makes sense. Yeah. Wow. I never saw that before.
If I read a book. Can I?
Yes, Zander.
I read a book quite a long time ago. Actually, now that I'm on here, I have to say that I kind of feel out of place. It's the first time, I think this is the first time I've been on, is it Wisdom Entrepreneurs?
Yes.
I think it's the first time I've ever been here. So I kind of feel out of place. It's the worst. I mean, end of the year, so probably the worst time anybody could come here for the first time, or even go anywhere for the first time. It's like, let's reminisce about the year. What year? I was saying to Anne-Marie a couple of weeks ago that I love I totally love the term 3 principles community. Because just the term and the obviously the feeling, yes. For me, it's the all inclusiveness that you've just sort of alluded to there, Jacqueline, or should I say MamaJ A? I don't know. There's no one in true community. I've sort of done because of a book or a few books that I've read and some sort of stuff that I've done in the past. I've talked in the past about true community, and all the elements of true community have actually been mentioned here in the short time that since I come onto this call. Sense of purpose, there was two or three, and I think I had to come in because it's like the last element. I've got to get my head in here, I've got to get my pennies worth in, that all inclusiveness, and you don't get the feeling if someone or anyone is being excluded in any way, shape or form. It has to be true community, has to doors open wide, we accept you for who you are, regardless of what that is. Regardless of your past, regardless of what you look like, regardless of anything. We accept you wholeheartedly. And that's the sense I get with the Three Principles community. That is true community, and you know, in my own understanding. So, I think the Three Principles community, I don't know much about, you know, the wisdom. Maybe I'll get to know more of that next year. But I do know that the Three Principles community, if you were to put it in inverted commas, embodies everything that I understand community to be. And there may be many, like there's beyond recovery and there's other things going on. But one of those things is a sense of purpose. And there may be many senses of purpose, but you know, obviously the sense of purpose starts with Sydney Banks. But that's all I'm going to say. I think that's all I'm going to say, because I kind of rambled a wee bit.
No, I love what you said, and you're allowed back now.
Thank you.
There you go. No, I love that, Zander. That's really interesting that you say that. Really interesting that we touched on that accidentally. And Wisdom Entrepreneurs is really just a group of like-minded people coming together to discuss whatever. And of course, because Beyond Recovery obviously relies on the teachings of Sydney Banks. Sydney Banks often comes into it. So thank you very much for bringing him in. And now he's at the party. And but yeah, whatever comes up really. So you won't find the other webinars, if you come back, much different. Sometimes we have guest speakers, like we had Shenan last time as a guest speaker.
I was just going to say, Zander, you were here last time when I was a guest speaker.
Look, I'm on, I don't know how many Three Principles Zoom calls, but obviously I remember being on that call with you, Shenan, but I couldn't have told you who organised it. I just knew it was there.
Well, it was them.
Okay.
You're initiated since November 2021.
Yeah. And how are you, Shenan?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. Thank you.
It's nice to have you with us.
Yeah, I was looking forward to this. I ended a call a little bit late with a client earlier, but I'm really excited for December. I always am, you know, the spirit and the friends that you don't get to see so often in the year. Going to spend a lot of time with parents. I'm going to do lots of reading that I haven't done. So I'm really looking forward to December.
Nice. Nice.
I'd like to say something that just came to me about the whole community thing. And like where I live, you know, there's a kind of there's, you know, the sort of people that do certain things, and you know, it looks like there's a kind of community. And I would say that, you know, on the outside, I don't really feel like I fit in much with anybody or have anything much in common. But what I saw when everyone was speaking is, if something happens like the river floods, or, you know, I don't know, these various things that happen over the course of in time when you live in a place, it's amazing how people suddenly come together to help, you know, drag cars out of water or things like that. And I just saw how that reveals this web that's there between everyone. So we have these, you know, webs of community that might be like all of us connected, you know, over a vast space, and then there's like a web of the community that we live in, which might be people that we never really even see or speak to, but as soon as something happens and all the stories and the labels and the busyness falls away and everyone comes together because, you know, something, it's not even like something brings it together, it's like something reveals that web of connection and caring that's there the whole time, which is nothing to do with who's on what committee or who is in charge of what. And yeah, just made me realize, oh yeah, we're all, even if we feel on the outside with nothing in common, we're always connected through that web with people in that place that's beyond all that stuff. And yeah, I guess that's what you were pointing to. And
I like that. I like thinking of it like that, as a web, like the trees, how the trees are all connected, and you know, and send information to each other and save each other and so on, and we're connected with that. I see Chris is going to speak.
It's sort of similar to Alfie, really, but I was just thinking, we were talking before about groups that get together, like the runners or the cyclists or whatever, but sort of what the three principles community in a way has in common is that we're all human, and so that's everyone. That really is everyone.
Yeah, I was thinking that when when Alfie was speaking as well. It's the human community.
It's funny enough, MamaJ, you mentioned the trees thing as well, innit? When Alfie was talking, that's exactly what I thought. You know, like underneath the ground, the trees all connected, and because they ain't got that thinking, so they're always looking out for each other. They're always protecting each other, no matter what they look like or what species. But when we've all, like you said, Alfie, the way you explained it was beautiful, because that connection was like always there. But when something happens to drop us out of that thinking, we throw the thinking away, and it's just survival or helping our next human being. But that connection is always accessible, always, always, always. But things like disasters or something like that takes it to reveal itself. Because the judgment will never come in beforehand when you heard you want to help out in a natural disaster. It's just inside us to help. And that's something that's all part of that same web of well-being. I like that word web. It's like that we've all got it, and we're all over it, basically, and ready to access it. Yeah, I like that.
I like that as well, in that I know that you're probably sick of hearing about my compost bin, but other people haven't heard about it, so I'm going to talk about it. I haven't heard it. Excellent, Joh. Excellent. Well done. So my son had a compost bin that he wasn't using, and it's a great big green thing, and he gave it to me last year. And so I thought, all right, then, you know, I'll give it a go, and threw leaves in there and flowers, you know, dead flowers, and some peels and whatever. And just kept throwing things in, really. And of course, when the winter came, I didn't bother going to it. And I came to it in the spring, and I looked inside, and I could not believe that all of that stuff had turned into soil. Like all of that dead stuff had decomposed and was now soil, like it was compost. It just blew me away how it was all dead things, and then now it's compost that I'm going to put back into the garden. So I was so impressed with all of that I've got well into it this year. So there's the compost bin, and I used all the soil, you know, for the garden, and I started I left a little bit in the bottom, and I started filling it up again. And the first thing that I noticed was there was frogs living in there. So, you know, a frog came out, and then another frog came out. I was like, wow, like frogs get in there and live in there. And we had to leave a little gap for them to get out, because Papa was worried about that. So carrying on filling it up and everything, because now I'm really into it. Now I want to know, how much compost can I make, you know? And the next thing, I go to put some compost in there, and a little mouse runs out of the frog, the little gap where the frogs are allowed out, and then another one, and there was like 6 little mice run out. So now there's mice in there, and so now we're saying, oh, instead of save that for the compost bin, it's like save that for the mice. It's like we're harboring the mice. But what's amazing to me is that, you know, the trees are dropping the leaves go in the compost bin, the creatures get in the compost bin, and they're getting warm, and they're breeding, and they're doing whatever they're doing in there, and they're helping, because of course they're moving around in there, which is making it decompose even more. And I normally stir it up. I don't need to now, because I've got creatures in there stirring it up for me. And like, it's the cycle of life. It's just like it's all just feeding each other, and the creatures are feeding each other, and the dead things have a purpose, and the new creatures have a purpose, and it's just amazing to me. It's like a microcosm of how life works, all in the compost bin. And I just feel really mind blown by the whole thing, because I do add stuff to it, like I add the food and the dead leaves and stuff to it, but I don't add any chemicals, or I don't even stir it anymore because I'm worried about, you know, poking the mouse or something. It's just doing itself, and I'm just doing my part, and somehow there's that whole circle of life thing going on. It's just fascinating to me how that all works, and it feels the same as community works best, just left to naturally change and absorb and bend and shift. And you know, you drop in, like this community, you drop in and you do something, but we're all there, we're all doing our bits, and we're all getting on with life. I don't know if that's making sense, but it just seemed really aligned to me, that it's like a hands-off thing, because it's the web that connects us, and the web that enables us all to feel the pulse of what's going on there.
Hey, MamaJ, going back to me, that feels like my life. Yeah. All my life I've been trying to stir up this compost heap, trying to see how much I can get to produce out of it. But then the minute I got out the way, things just happened, and it started to produce the soil. And yeah, and the type of soil I thought it would produce, that green type with the queen's head on it, it wasn't even that soil I was producing now. It was a different kind of soil. But I can see it's just the same, just getting out of my way. Just getting out, and that brings me on to the new bit about, not even new bit, but something I see from the other day. My internet's unstable, and I had to turn my camera off. That, you know, when I was doing that, churning up the compost and doing all of that, that made sense to me at the time, yeah? And nobody could tell me anything. I might have heard it, I might not have, but it made sense to me. And I sort of saw that as a big thing when I read it back, as, you know, that people only do what's sensible to them in the moment, yeah? So for me, that was sensible for me in that moment. But as soon as I step out of that moment, or it's not sensible to me anymore, then I can sort of understand how somebody else could have seen that didn't make sense, how that didn't make sense. And in the reverse, I can see, it might get complicated now, I can see how when somebody else does something, it makes sense to them in that moment. And I don't need to understand what that sense is, because I've done some not stupid things, but I've done silly things where if you would ask me what am I doing, I wouldn't want to tell you because it sounds stupid. But when I've done that stupid thing, the results have come out. Like I used to walk around town by myself up and down the same road because I saw a postman on the road and that told me that that road's pretty lively. But if I told anybody else that, they'll say, no, that's the most stupidest thing I've ever heard. But because it made sense to me at the time, it has to make sense at the time. And I don't have to question what anybody's done because in that moment, that made sense to them. Am I making sense?
Yeah,
and
totally.
The way I sort of saw it on a deeper level, I was having a talk with a family member and there was a little bit of a dispute going on. And where I usually would have got upset because thinking where they're coming from, that angle, I totally just saw that whatever they were saying made sense to them in that moment. So I ain't going to challenge, I'm going to say my part, but I'm just going to understand that that's what makes sense to them in that moment. And for me, that took like the sting out of it. And it showed me that sometimes what's made sense to me, that can always change without no thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just, that's great. thinking about the compost, back to the compost, because I had compost for years before I came here, and there's no compost bins. And it wasn't about that so much more that, like, I know that whole thing of just feeding it and letting it go, because I never really did that much with it. But when I was in this place, for another place for 10, I think it was about 10 or 11 years, and when I left, I emptied the compost bin, and I gave like this amazing compost to the people up in the next garden up who could use it all. But I love that word microcosm. It came up when you were, just before you said it, it sort of came into my head. And then, because it is like lifting the lid on that, is like looking through a microscope at this. It allows you to kind of zoom in on what it is, that whole cycle of life, doesn't it? And that just, it's sort of it's hands off, but a little bit hands on, tiny bit, because you've still got to feed it, and you make those decisions about not stirring it, you know, like when things, there's a little bit of that happening. So it's like this coming together. You're feeding the community by calling the meeting, so that we can share and that's lovely. And we're feeding the compost by being here together, which is really lovely. And yeah, I like that idea. I was just thinking when you were all talking about trees, and Alfie said something. Yeah, but I think everyone, like those pictures you see, those images you see sometimes where they've got cables attached to people, and they can see what parts of the brain are firing at different times when they prod something and something lights up. And that to me is like the little map too of, like, sometimes the whole thing lights up, the whole greater community lights up at once, and then other times just a little part of it, or two sections, or one starts sparkling over here, and then that connects to something else, and everything starts sparkling, just like all those lights behind Anne-Marie, and like that. And so you get this kind of, see how they kind of move, like moving around one bit, and it's like this web, this big web, but then this interwebs, all these little microcosms of interwebs, and all that life in the compost heap. You know, it kind of allows us that, like, allows us to see what's going on everywhere all at once. But you're only seeing it, you're just looking in there, but it's happening everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's just
I saw it earlier, Joh, with a while ago. Derrick made a suggestion about libraries, and then we did a book thing, and it's sort of like it was there, it was out there, it was like leaves, you know, yeah. and then some creatures joined it, but it didn't really go anywhere yet. And it was one of those things that, oh, okay, that's out there now. And then all of a sudden tonight on the sofa, I was talking with Rob, and we were talking about, you know, what we're going to do with this campaign and stuff. And then libraries, I was like, oh, libraries the key. And then all of a sudden, all the notes that I've made and all the thing came together of, oh, libraries is the key. Now it might not go anywhere still while it's decomposing itself and it's doing its bits. But I really see that our part is to show up and do whatever we think is to be done then, and then let go again.
Yeah.
And that will occur somewhere. You know, we'll go as far as we can go with it, and then, you know, it might stall again, or it might fall. Like when Derrick suggested it was a good suggestion, but it couldn't really go anywhere at that time. It needed more elements, but we didn't know what elements. I really, really see how, you know, in the moment you need to do your bit, and then it's back off again.
Yeah, I
And
love
it
it.
takes care of itself. Did you want to ask something, Zander? You know, in here you can just speak.
Yeah, I don't like being rude. Sometimes I think it's rude if you just jump in, like I did last time. I felt rude. But anyway, this is reminding me, I don't know, some people might have seen this documentary, right? There's a documentary I've seen a good few years ago now. And it was a BBC documentary. And they basically started off with this question: what is salmon, bears, this forest, and a couple of other things, fungus? What's it got in common? Does anybody sound familiar to anybody? Right. So it started off with these bears, and it was the adult bears were showing the young bears, teaching them how to catch salmon. So the salmon was swimming up the river, and the young bears would catch the salmon and they would take it into the forest. This young bear would catch this thing twice the size of itself and take it into the forest, and it said the young bear would eat the choice meat from the salmon. That's a small proportion of the meat that's on a salmon. And then, so if you imagine a whole load of families of bears catching salmon, and all these salmon littered are on the floor of the forest. And then it went on to, left that, and then it went on to the salmon. And there was, I don't know, I hate to imagine all sorts of nocturnal animals, rodents, you know, that would come along and they would have their pick of what was left of the salmon. And then as time went on, the creatures that would take a feed off the salmon, they grew smaller and smaller and smaller, you know, until all that was left was the fiber. I don't know, I forget terms like that. I should remember. Remember, if you're going to tell this story, remember
It's good. Keep going.
Stuff. Right? But the tiniest fiber, or what's that effect? I don't know. But and this went into the soil. Now, then it left the salmon. The story left the salmon and went on to this fungus that grew over the forest floor. And it said what the fungus was actually doing, it was a web of intricate fibers, and the fibers of this fungus was actually feeding water to the trees. But not only that, but it was carrying something of the salmon along with it. And it was actually called the salmon forest. Right at the end of this thing, they bore into one of the trees, and they took it into a lab, and they showed you this microscopic, I don't know, something that was actually an element of the salmon. Wow. And it was called the salmon forest. But what the conversation reminded me of, what you were saying, we do our bit, and the bears never hung around to see the other rodents and things were going to come along. The rodents didn't hang around to see if the other animals or insects or whatever were going to come along and do their bit. They just did their bit and moved on, you know. So yeah, that's kind of pertinent.
Really, totally pertinent.
I love that story, you know. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
You know, I love that because I feel like with me before, like I feel like this year's been a big lesson for me, real big lesson. And before I used to want compost in a month. Used to put everything in there. I want compost in a month, and I'm doing everything how to get compost in a month. and I'm pissed off because I ain't got compost and it doesn't even look like compost in 2 weeks, and I'll throw it all away, have a different brainwave tomorrow and do the same thing again, trying to make the same compost in a month. And what I realize is that even throughout both stories that you both spoke about, the natural intelligence takes care of it anyway. Do you know what I mean? There's a certain natural intelligence that takes care of it. Like, you've done your bit, you've put your stuff in the bin. Now the natural intelligence is going to take over. And even, it's like, you see how you felt when you first saw your compost. So I had this feeling, and I can't describe it at all, but it's on that same level, but I can't describe it because it was just, I felt like, I can't even describe it. But I went to go see this artist perform, and my brother, he's a producer for it, and he's an opening act now because he's got his music, doing his music. So he performed and she performed, and she sold out this Brixton O2 like 3 nights in a row. First woman to do it. And I felt complete. Do you know what I mean? I felt complete. I'm watching my brother on stage performing, doing what he loves to do. And we had a heart-to-heart that day, and I learned a lot of things I didn't know, how he was watching me and he always followed me. And do you know what I mean? And everything I thought I was doing for him, everything I did, and the mind frames I created and all of that, just in my way to protect him and make that compost right now, I didn't know that it would flourish and look like that. Do you know what I mean? I had no clue. And yeah, it's just amazing to see that you could do something and natural intelligence will take care of it anyway, regardless of what you think about it, or regardless of what you think you've done, regardless of what you think it's looking like or how it's going. The natural intelligence is still working in the background, doing what it does. That's why even the story you just told, Zander, I love that. I love that, because even before you said it, I was thinking the bears don't even care. Do you know what I mean? They're just doing their bit, and then the natural intelligence takes care of the rest. And I felt like I've lived my life a bit more like that since I've been working with Beyond Recovery and just meeting a lot of people, learning from every single person I meet. I've been kind of just living day by day, flowing and just living with that feeling and just knowing that compost will be made. Compost will be made. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to do anything. I just need to do my part with the little orange pills and it will, the natural intelligence will take care of it, because I feel like this year I've learned so much. And I feel like I feel super proud of myself for even being here. Do you know what I mean? Even being here and just talking and meeting everybody I've met and forming the connections that I've formed, and everybody breaking down the barriers, and just me proving myself wrong all the time and growing from that. It's just been such an amazing journey, and I couldn't have imagined this journey, how it's been. I couldn't have planned it. I couldn't have designed it. Do you know what I mean? That's and there's times when I've been mad pissed off because it's not going the way I think it should go. And then I realize, I want compost in a month. Chill out. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, sorry, I'm on compost talk because you lot started it. Sorry. But yeah, it's just being on the journey with you guys and meeting everybody that we've met and doing the things that we do. Sometimes, even like the last call we had a call with these people, this beautiful team called XLP, and they do this wonderful youth work across London. And we met with their team and they loved us, but they didn't understand what we do. And you see me, I love that. I love that so much because there's that thought, you're just like one thought away, do you know what I mean? And there's that thought process. And I've come across many things in life where the formula looks good and then the execution doesn't really work too much, or it works with some and it doesn't. And then I've been to others where the formula doesn't look too good, but it works with a certain type and only this type and then that type and then not this type, but that. And ours, the formula is a question mark, but it works for everybody. It works for humans. And it's like, it's crazy. To me, it's crazy because through my life, I'm used to trying to sell. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm a salesman. I've always sold things. So I've never really been comfortable in the product too much. I've always been more comfortable in my words and the way I sell it than the product itself. And now it's just so amazing because there's nothing to sell. I'm not selling nothing. I'm not trying to give nothing. It's just light-hearted love. And it's like, if anybody, it's like, even right now, my mates, they're making 30K doing this, doing the thing, the job I was going to get. And I'm loving them, and they're getting more guys in, and they're getting all the boys in, and I'm loving it. And I'm like, I wouldn't change this for the world, because I love for a living. Like that's just like, if you ask me to love for a living, what? That's free. I'll do that for free. And then you're gonna give me a little change to do what? That, to me, everything's a bonus. Like, to wake up and love, and then to go sleep with that love, and then have extra love for your family and extra love, and then you grow more love outside of work, and then you're at work with more love and laughter. And to me, I feel like, just pinch me. I'm still living the dream. Do you know what I mean? I'm with amazing people, and with you guys on a call. We laugh, we joke, we even. It's like I was telling MamaJ, I respect everybody so much, because when I'm in my moods and I come and I just chat my rubbish and I rant and I'm down and I'm upset, and everybody just listens and just, do you know what I mean? They just sit with me. Do you know what I mean? I don't even get advice. Everyone just sits with me, and I feel the room and I feel the love. And it's like nobody buys into my story. They just sit with me and just love straight back, and I just feel it. And yeah, it's amazing. I feel like I'm in a dream all the time. When I really sit and think about it, and what we do and who we've spoke to, and the connections we've formed and the love we've formed, it's a dream to me. It's actually a dream. I could have never imagined this, like how it is. So on the top of that, I just want to say thank you to every single person here, because your story is a part of me. Do you know what I mean? Anything you've said or you've come across, or even when you thought you're in a bad place, and all of that is a part of me now. And it's like, it's allowed me to grow in my life, regardless of how even if you've not even said nothing to me, or you said it to someone, it's like I've heard it and it's allowed me to grow. And all of that is the reason I show up and I am who I am, because of the way everybody is and what we do and how we connect with people. So I just want to say thank you, guys. I know when I talk, it's a madness. I just go. It's like this is
brilliant. I love it. Yeah, when you get going, it's beautiful.
I appreciate it.
I wanted to share something, and I don't want to take the feeling away that you've just created, but hopefully I can enhance it. I'm getting a lot out of this call. It's simplifying a lot of this direction of how. What everyone has pointed to, of how you show up, like Jacqueline says, and then you just leave it alone. And it reminded me of so many examples. So when Alfi was talking about disaster, it was like, oh yeah, that happened here in Vancouver. I'm in Vancouver, BC, and we had this floods just recently, right? Just about a month ago. The worst floods the city has ever seen. Took out 7 highways and blocked the railways. So there was no going in or out of Vancouver. So that means products weren't coming in. And, there was this madness of all these shortages of products. And this is what I'm about to say is a little bit opinion, but forgive me for that. There is this segregation going on right now with vaxxed, unvaxxed, right? The government has really created this, and my personal opinion, it's bullshit. It's very immature, I think. And so that was very alive, right? Vaxxed is this and unvaxxed is this, and stay away from here and stay away from that. These floods happened and everybody forgot that.
Yeah.
Everybody came together just so naturally, helping each other. These farms were flooded, cattle were drowning. Everyone started helping cattle. Poultry farms were just destroyed. So everyone jumped in. And there was this one instant where the dam was flooded and blocked. And there was a group of 300 people that came together just in that one day as it happened and unblocked the dam. And if it wasn't for that, the recovery would have taken way, way longer. So it was celebrated in such a magnificent way that everyone was like, wow, how did we go from avoiding each other and trying to notice who's vaxxed and unvaxxed to this? And I think that's what everyone was pointing to here, was that the thinking dropped, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
So that was such a beautiful example. And then another thing came to mind was talking about the trees. I think Alfi pointed out the trees, and it came to mind that there was a groundbreaking study done. The initial study was done here in UBC, University of British Columbia. It was a while ago, 7 to 10 years ago, and it must have gotten around because I know it really changed the way people looked at trees. And they studied trees in real time, and they noticed that there was a group of trees, and where one tree was dying or they had less nutrients, all the other trees would send nutrients underground to this one tree only. In real time, they recorded that they would send these nutrients. They tracked that there was a speeding up of sending nutrients to these trees until this tree was full back to health, and then the other trees stopped sending it. I was like, wow, that is groundbreaking for real, right? That's like us bringing people back to full health and going, all right, well, you're on your way now, and leaving it. And then Zander brought up this example of the documentary. And so I was Googling it because I didn't want to get it mixed up. And I wrote a post about this in 2014, which is before I got introduced to the principles. And it was really amazing. I found the post. So here's what occurs in California, right? There is this red cedar trees that only grows on the West Coast, and they couldn't figure out why it's not anywhere else in the country. Red cedar trees. There's cedar forests everywhere, but there's a red cedar forest. So they studied it. And here's what they found out. The red cedar only grows in the North American coast and not inland, because when bears eat salmon, the waste from their bodies, as well as the salmon carcasses, are then utilized by the vegetation, and then they enrich the soil with the nutrients, which in turn recycles itself into the ecosystem. The soil sampling was conducted in July, August 98. Each watershed collection sites were initially chosen near the stream, adjacent to areas of suitable spawning gravel for salmon, where there was evidence of carcass transfer into the forest from the salmon that turns it into a red cedar forest. And I was like, oh my God, isn't that incredible?
Wow.
So all that came to mind, and I was like, wow, that happens in individual life or community, or I think it was Christine that mentioned that we're all human beings. And if you take it zoomed out to that perspective, that's it. That's it.
Wow.
So I've gotten a lot out of this. It just came flooding into my mind. I was like, wow, that's so true in so many levels.
There was another story. It was about a forest. I think it was a national park in Africa, I think. And I don't know what the animal was. It was something like a caribou, or some kind of moose or something like that. One of those sort of big cattle with antlers. One of those reindeer type things, right? So it was something like that. We'll call it caribou, just for ease of purpose. And they had grown in numbers because they decided that they were going to help to preserve this animal, and the whatever the animal was, caribou to say, would eat off this particular tree, and so because they were being protected, these animals they began to grow in number. But suddenly, at some point after about 5 or 10 years or something, they'd started to notice that the animals were dying for no particular reason. They tried, they studied, and they couldn't find a reason for those animals dying. And eventually, they hit upon. They started to look at the trees that the animals were eating from. And they were sending, what they found was that the trees were sending messages to one another to make their fruit toxic, whatever it was that the animals were eating. So that the trees were actually killing off the animals because the animals were becoming too great in number for the trees to survive. I was like, wow. And then when you think about all this, when I think about all this, what I've been thinking is that you talk about the microcosm, and we talk about how there's this wisdom that beats my heart and lets my eyes see and all that other internal stuff that I have no control over, and when you put, what I'm thinking is what we forget is that we are the bears, we are the salmon. We are all of that. And part of the illusion that Sydney Banks talked about was that we think we're separate from it all. We are that. That's what we are, And it just totally amazes me when I hear, and that's why I watch, I suppose, look for that information. I'm looking for signs when, that this whole, the entire Earth, well, Earth-wide, if you will, worldwide ecosystem that changes from place to place, and we're part of that, And I've done some study of I've done some study at the beginning of 2020. The reasons, kind of obvious, but I started looking at natural medicine and all that sort of stuff, and something that came up was that where in one country, for instance, let's say, I can't think of anything straight off the top of my head, but where, for instance, a kiwi fruit, for instance, or some other fruit or veg would be good for, say, stomach pains. In one country, there would be a similar fruit in another country that was almost exactly the same, that did the exact same thing, so that the medicine was there in the environment, kind of thing, and yet it took different forms in different geographical areas. We're part of that, that is what we are, so yeah.
We are the compost.
Yes.
We are the compost and everything that goes with it. That's beautiful, Zander. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming and contributing and having this conversation and everybody else. I think it's a beautiful place to stop and pause for now and to say thank you so much from our hearts to everybody that comes and joins us. And we love you all. Truly, and yeah, merry holidays, happy holidays, wherever you celebrate. There's no wisdom in January, so the next wisdom is in February. Yeah, that's it from me.
Oh, is that finished? That's finished.
I think so, yeah. I'm afraid so.
Thank you for the welcome that I've received.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Everyone, thank you.
Do you like Wilson's humble W? Hang on in there.
Very humble.
Before we go, MamaJ, thank you from my heart.
Bye.
From me, East Rosen, and my family, because you've taken me on this journey and that it's just been amazing. Do you know what I mean? And if I didn't meet you in them circumstances and that, I don't know what I'll be doing or where I'll be, and I wouldn't meet all these beautiful people, and I wouldn't have met Derrick how I met Derrick, and I wouldn't have met Gary and all the rest of the people, and it's just been amazing. And Gary, I appreciate you so much, bro, for that. Even just taking time out to help me do personal stuff in my life, that's a lot, do you know what I mean? And just meeting you and coming on this journey with you, it's been a lot as well. And Derrick, I know he's gone, he throws out, but he probably don't know, he's taught me a lot. He's actually taught me a lot. I see him like an older brother, he's taught me a lot, even down to cooking, bit of apple crumble. Like, real talk, he's taught me a lot, and I watch him and I see certain things and I speak to him, and he's proper taught me a lot on this journey as well, and I look up to him. So I just wanted to say thank you to you guys especially, and anybody that supports us, because that they're supporting what you've done and the love you've shown me and the transition that I've made, and it's amazing. And even the people that know me, they see it and they're like, wow. And it's just like, to me, it's amazing. And everybody that supports that, they've supported me. So it's like, I have a deeper love for it. Do you know what I mean? And especially Debbie, when I first met Debbie, oh my days, angel, total angel, do you know what I mean? And it's like, you warm my heart into this, do you know what I mean? Everything you did for us on the computer and all of that, like it didn't go amiss. Like my heart goes out to that, because that was a lot of work. I've tried to do that stuff and it's not for me. But I'm just so, I love you.
Thank you, Omar.
No, all day long, and I appreciate all you guys, and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year if I don't see you.
Lots of love, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Bye. And Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye.